What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Ivy League Mindset. This is episode 19. Tonight, Hawk and I are just sitting down and we're having a little chat. Hawk, how's your week been so far?
It's been pretty good, Dan. Busy as usual. Lots of hours at work lately. A lot of coverages and then balancing other work with other work and then family and school and other things. But still good. Still good, still happy. How about you?
Good. It's just balancing everything, right? And getting it all done and making sure you're not stressing yourself out or like overworking yourself. I saw it the last couple of days. You've been doing a lot of studying, eh?
Oh, yeah. One rule for myself is to always try to advance in anything that you're passionate about or your career. Now, you have to balance with your career and passion. I say those two as two just separate things. They could be the same thing too, but so for my career, I get to do one schooling. This is a rule for myself. Everybody does it different, but I do one schooling for my career. So two things for my career, for one thing for my passion. So my passion is fitness, health, and all that stuff. So I'll do two courses for my main career and then one for my passion, because if I wanted to, I'd probably go all passion all the time, right? And that wouldn't progress me and getting the financial freedom that I want for my family eventually, right? So yeah, just
I
rule
like
for
that.
myself. So just progressing, keep trying, right? It's tough when you have 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 jobs, you know what I mean? So, but just keeping that balance and trying to stay happy, right? I make a lot of rules for myself. I talk about it all the time, but making those rules, trying to be better, same old.
And that's where you're sort of like taking advantage of open time, right? Like you're doing a lot of studying when you're on breaks at work and like fitting things in, like playing Tetris, right?
Yeah, pretty much like exactly what you say there. That balance, I think, is key, where I notice other people's trends. Like I talk about where I listen to other people's stories, where how were they successful or where did they fail? I learned something from each one of them. And I noticed a lot of times where people fail is when they make an excuse for themselves about time. So a lot of what I'm trying to do is time management, right? So if I know I'm going to have a packed day and there's no way out of it, where can I utilize that time to advance myself, right? I have to do it. It's not a choice of not doing it for me, right? If I want to be better for my family, then, it's not doing nothing. It's trying my best to do something. So even if it's sacrificing my breaks just for a little bit of studying, then I'm going to do it, right? So it's just me. That's what I do. But
I mean, we're both similar like that, right? Like we both talk about that time management. Like when you have the discipline and you know that there's things that you want to do and you need to get done, you find the time to make it happen. Absolutely. And whether that's taking away from your pleasure or taking away from your leisure or whatever it might be to make sure that balance works, if you have the discipline and the dedication to get to where you want to get to, that's just part of it, right?
Yeah, definitely playing the cards that I'm dealt with. I know I'm not the greatest learner. I know that everything I do is going to be the long road. So what does it take to play on that long road or ride that long road is discipline and staying humble and knowing that there's going to be better days in the future as long as you put the energy towards those better things, right?
And a lot of hard work.
That's it, man. That's it. And don't quit. I quit many times when I was younger, many times. And I noticed when I quit, that got me nothing. Nobody gives a shit either. When you quit, nobody gives a shit. If you don't put in work, nobody gives a shit. Nobody even gives a shit if you put in the work, really, right? So it's about progressing for yourself and who you care about and who you want to share your wealth with, right? Or your health, wealth, or whatever you are getting from this, right? Your gains.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to talk about what I noticed on your social this week.
Yeah.
I noticed that you put that you're watching WWE, or back in our day, WWF, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I really respect that you posted it. You know, I tune in once in a while. I don't tune in all the time like I was when I was a kid. But can you? I like what you posted about why you were watching it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, like when I was in high school, I was a huge WWF fan. I actually went to a WrestleMania once. They had a WrestleMania at Skydome. I forget what grade I was in, but like I was die hard. Like me and my buddy went to this WrestleMania, and then like I got a little bit older, and you're just like, man, I can't believe I watched that wrestling stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's so fake. I can't believe whatever. Sort of off topic a little bit, but like I also remember I used to watch the UFC when it like first started. Like Ken Shamrock, like he was in like some of the first UFCs. I remember I used to watch it because we get pay-per-view, and like the wrestling events and UFC events would be together. But anyways, I like probably went like at least 10 years not watching any WWE or WWF. And maybe it was like 6 months ago now. I was just flicking through the TV one night, and it was either a Thursday or a Monday, because Monday night they have like a show. Thursday night they have a show, and it was on, and I just clicked it for the fun of it. Like I was like, I haven't watched this for a long time. I'm gonna watch it. And the main reason why I clicked on it was not because I wanted to watch the wrestling, but because over the last year I've listened to interviews with Stephanie McMahon, interviews with Triple H, which is her husband. He was a wrestler back when we were younger, and interviews with Vince McMahon, the guy that started it all. And when I learned the story of what WWF to WWE was, how it used to be like this one little town wrestling show, and Vince McMahon had this dream that wrestling was going to be a mainstream sport like all the other sports, and he put in the work, and he's turned it into what it is today. And the fact that it's like a $1 billion international company, like when you look at it from that point, because I'm like a big fan of like business and different things like that, and the fact that it's a huge company and what he's done to it, and it's still just as popular today, maybe not if not even more than what it was when we were younger and we used to watch it. And I just have so much admiration and respect for someone that can do something like that. So I threw it on. I'll throw it on for like 20 or 30 minutes and just watch. And sometimes you see characters that used to be on it when we were younger, and it's cool to be like, holy, like that guy's still wrestling. He must be so old, because you thought he was so old when we were younger too. And then, just to watch the show that he's created. Like, yeah, it's fake, but like he created this show, right? Like people watch tons of different TV shows on TV. You name it, like Game of Thrones, different things like that, right? And WWE, all it is a TV show at the end of the day, and a show and a business that this guy's created. And yeah, it's crazy to think of what he's done with it.
Yeah, that's it's interesting how you talk about it. So let's talk about a little bit about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I got from that is perspective check, right? As we age, we look at it differently, even though it's the same thing. It's the same thing as always been, right? Maybe a little bit bigger, obviously, but it's still the same type of wrestling. It hasn't changed too much. The storyline, they still have a storyline and everything like that. Real quick, what I get from it, from my perspective, I went through the same stage as you. Like, you watch it, you learn it's fake, then you stop watching. Oh, it's fake, whatever. Nowadays, when I look at it, like I watch it once in a while, if I'm flicking through, nothing's on, right? If I have time, right? But what I get from it is these people are incredible when controlling their own body, doing flips, and still very athletic, and still trying to follow the storyline, the choreograph, the everything, right? And you're doing it in front of so many people. If you can't respect that, I don't even know what to say, right? Now, tracking back, like I said, when I heard that it was fake when I was a kid, I was like, I'm not watching this anymore. This sucks or whatever. I think as we mature, we look at things a little bit different. We got to understand what we're looking at, right? The sooner we understand it, the better, obviously. But as time goes on, it's funny how things change in your mind, right? And it's the same thing. So, one other situation for me, real quick, I always skip, like jump rope. I've been doing it since I was 8 years old. So back then, when you're 8, you're a guy. There wasn't a lot of guys skipping. But how I saw it when I was a kid, I saw a boxer do it. Could have been Floyd Mayweather, who knows, right? But I enjoyed it for the exercise. I'm like, oh, boxers are doing it. It can't be that girly, right? Nowadays, you see other people look at it differently. Back then, people made fun of me for skipping. Nowadays, guys are even asking me how to skip.
It's mainstream now, right? Like that. It's like a really celebrated form of exercise now, where you're right. Back when we were younger, or you'd be in elementary school, only girls skipped. Guys didn't skip. And if you did skip, you got made fun of for skipping, right?
100%. It's cool, well, like the perspective check, though, for sure.
For sure. And I like, as you get older, you go through different life situations, you gain knowledge, you're growing, and you just see things differently. I heard someone say once, and I know this is true from my own use, is you can read the same book 50 different times, and every time you read that book, it's almost like you're reading a new book, because you're going into that book with a totally different mindset and knowledge base than what you did the time before. And you might pick up a totally different tidbit of knowledge that time because you're going into that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same with life situations. You can hit the same situation 100 times in your life at different stages and different ages and react totally different than what you would at different ones, just because of the life knowledge you've gained, the new perspective you have on life, maybe the patience you have now, the knowledge you have. And I think it's cool because I know in another 10, 20 years, the way I look at things right now, I'm going to be like, why did I ever look at it like that? Right?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's all part of the process too. Not saying how you think is wrong, like how you think at the time was wrong, but you got to understand the process. I think it's part of the journey too, right? Speaking of which, when you were talking about books, I'm almost using a book to change my perspective on one situation that I have a big issue with, is sleeping. I mentioned this in the last podcast too, was I have a hard time sleeping, but I don't think I have an issue, but I know it's an issue. It's going to be an issue, right? So I'm almost reading the book to change my perspective and get more wise on it. You know what I mean?
Yep. I do that. I do that a lot of different times in my life. Like, for example, if I ever catch myself, like I had been the last little bit that I talked about in the last podcast, like not eating as clean and as healthy as I know I should, I will go back and I will read one of my health eating books, or I'll maybe like watch a documentary on Netflix, just to sort of reboot the system and remind yourself of why you were doing it to begin with. You know what I mean? I think it's important, you and I both have it, is like the self-awareness to know that you need to do that. Like to know that like it's something that you want to change, and know that you've only been seeing it one way for so long that you need to introduce something new to sort of shock your system and think about it in a different way so that you can change that habit.
Yeah. That being said, I think on top of that, doing some reflection, like using something to reignite something that was already there, or refamiliarize yourself with the knowledge again, but also reflecting on where you come from, right? I was talking to one of my jiu-jitsu buddies about bodyweight stuff, and he got really stagnant on doing some of his ring work, right? So a lot of gymnastic ring work, and he noticed he wasn't doing the stuff that got him to where he was from back then. So that grind at the beginning, he wasn't doing that anymore. And then when he got to where he is, he stopped doing it, and he noticed he started back, like, not progressing or staying the same, right? So it's almost like that, a little bit of self-reflection on where did you come from, how did you get here, and are you still doing the stuff that makes you better, right? Not saying that you have to do the same thing. Obviously, like I said, you grow and you do different things, you get better, but remember the grind, remember what made you, right? So
For
it might
sure.
still work.
Yeah, sometimes you need those like pauses in life sort of to take the time to reflect and see if the way you've been doing it is the way you should be doing it, or if there is a different way to switch it up and be able to do it.
Yeah. One thing I said at the beginning of this podcast is, no matter how busy I was, like this week, I'm still happy. I think that's very important with what we're talking about. I think even if you're losing a lot of weight and you're still unhappy, I think you need to fix something deeper, right? Yeah, it's just, a little bit of self-reflection and understanding what really makes you happy takes you a long ways, right?
Yeah, like, I don't know how much you watch this stuff, but someone who I follow and I read and watch this stuff is Gary Vee.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about this perspective and like being aware of if you're happy or not a lot, because he talks about how he has friends who make $50,000 a year and they're there at their kid's baseball team coaching, and they're like the happiest person ever in the world. And he has friends who are making millions and millions of dollars and they hate their life. And it's funny because like that guy who's making tons of money, who hates his life, hasn't really found yet what makes him happy and that balance to make him happy. Where that guy that's not making that much money, but that's happy as fuck, he's like doing amazing because he has found what makes him happy and what does it, right? And like for you right now at this stage of life, is it ideal that you're as busy as you are? No, obviously not. That's not the way you want it to be. But you know that it's getting you somewhere where that's not going to be, and that's what makes you happy, and that's what makes you push it. Just like me doing what I'm doing too, right? You know that it's short term, and if you were to go to bed every night unhappy, it wouldn't do any good for you. It would hold you back, and it won't. You'll be stuck doing that even longer than you would be doing it if you weren't.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to recognize how unhappy you are until it's like deep in, right? But people always think money will make them happy if they're unhappy, right? It's a tough balance. It's a very tough balance, and tough to understand that, right?
For sure. It's really just like reflecting on maybe your lifestyle, what you're doing, how you're spending your time, all those things, and really like dialing it in and digging deep and seeing what are the parts that are making you happy, what are the parts that are actually upsetting you and making you unhappy, and seeing if you can tweak it to start getting more of those happy parts than those negative parts. Because at the end of the day, we all have shitty stuff that happens to us every single day, right? And it's just being able to take those positive moments in your day and letting them fuel you instead of taking those negative moments that can bring you down.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, again, with that balance act too, right? Yeah, shitty things happen to everybody every day. It's definitely how you deal with it and how much you let it affect you, right? I'm not going to name the place. I'm not going to name the people, but at this one place, I'm going to say it's at a gym. Okay. So a locker room was closed, right? And there's another locker room they can use. I noticed the people that didn't care that the one locker room was closed, they just went to the other one. You could tell almost right away what kind of person they are, right? The people that is like, oh, this is horse shit. Now I can't use that change room. blah, 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 blah. You could tell that they have bigger issues that they have to deal with than just the locker room, right? That's where you're like, really, are you going to let if somebody cut you off, are you going to let that ruin your day? If you trip, you get a little cut, are you going to let that ruin your day? You know what I mean? It's just, all these things you got to check yourself.
For sure. And it's like everything that we talk about to make sure that that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like that, like I couldn't imagine that, like, let's just take that scenario that you're talking about right now. You still have a locker room that you can get changed in. So the tasks that you at hand that you need to get done can still get done. And you're there for a reason, right? You're there to, if you're at a gym, you're there to change and go work out. So why let this one little thing get you all upset, which is probably then going to wreck your workout, which is then probably going to cascade and have a domino effect in your day. It's like you said, you can tell what type of people those people are, right? Because those are the type of people that take that one negative thing and they let the negative fuel instead of just dropping it and letting the positive fuel.
Yeah. Why let that ruin your day? Why let that even affect you? For me, I don't really have the time to dwell on that kind of stuff. Like if I went to the gym, one change room is out of order, I can use another one. No problem. I gotta just go work. I'm there to work out. I'm not there to chit chat in the change room or whatever, right? So whatever. I put my bag here, go do my thing. I'm headed home to my family and having fun, right? So,
like, I know probably, I want to say, like, probably back in the day, I would have probably let something like that aggravate me. Like, maybe not to the effect where, like, wreck your workout, but I would probably have definitely let that get in my head and take up that space. And like you said, and something I've really been noticing lately is that when you let a negative action or something like that in your life affect you, what you really are doing is now letting that negative thought take up space and time in your head. Because sometimes I'll let that something will happen to me and I'll take the negative and I'll start like going for that negative jog in your head about whatever the situation is. And I'll catch myself and you'll be like, how long was I being negative like that for? 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? And then you think to yourself, like, I could have used that time in my head for so many more productive things than just like whining and bitching about something that didn't even affect you or that you couldn't have had any control over it anyways to begin with. Like, why waste that time in your head on something like that when you can be using it for more productive and positive things?
That's 100% right. And this doesn't just go with situation. This goes with people too. I see time and time again, people holding grudges against other people. And sometimes they hold the grudge so long that they forget why the grudge is, right? As I get older, and pardon my language on this, I almost give less fucks. I give less fucks about things, right? So my family used to fight over, like, if my sister had a bowl of noodles, I'd eat it up real quick and we wouldn't talk for 4 months. Now if she did it, like back then, if she did that to me, I'd probably be pissed too. But nowadays, like if she did that, I'd be like, oh, probably she must have been hungry, right? You know what I mean? I don't care. That's a poor example, but like I said, I give less fucks about things that don't really matter. Or if they're important to you, then show them that they're important before they're gone. That's it. Like if you really care about them, are you gonna let a little situation like ruin long time relationship, friendship, whatever? That's up to you, right? I don't have time for that. So.
There's a really good book I read a couple years ago now when it first came out. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not. It's like a big orange cover. It's a pretty popular book for a while, but it basically just goes through like what you just said is just like in this life, we're sort of trained from such a young age to always care and always like worry about other people's business and get upset about like stupid things. And it really just like teaches you that art and like that freedom that you get when you don't care and you don't let it bother you and you don't worry about it. Like there's so much more freedom in that when you can, like you said, like, oh, she must have been hungry. That's why she ate my noodles. Not like going to the automatic mindset of like, she ate those noodles to piss me off. Like I should be so upset with her, right? Like
She
good for
might.
her. I'm glad she ate them. Yeah. But yeah, it's like if that's something that you're stuck with out there, maybe take a look at that book, because I know that book sort of helped me and gave me a new perspective on those situations. Because at that time, that like worrying about everything was like something that I noticed I was doing a lot, and it was bothering me because I was wasting so much time in my head with it. So I had heard about that book and I checked it out, and it was like that kickstart that we talked about at the beginning of this episode that gave me the new perspective of how to look at those situations so that I could take that new perspective and have better outcomes for myself.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out that book. I had somebody recommend that book to me before. Actually, a few people. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, just giving less fucks about things is is definitely a good thing.
Yeah. And maybe also just being open-minded that everyone comes at situations with their own life experiences and their own perspective. And sometimes you just have to be open-minded enough to listen to someone else's perspective or go out there and try to see a new perspective to maybe get a wider view, or like how we like to talk about sometimes, like you go above and you can see the whole picture. Sometimes you need that.
Yeah. Speaking of not giving a fuck, I'm back in my day, being a nerd, or I like anime stuff like Dragon Ball Z or whatever. I'm saying it now because I don't give a fuck, right? So I'm wearing a One Punch Man. I don't know if you ever seen it before.
I know,
That
yeah.
cartoon.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wearing that shirt right now because I don't give a fuck and it makes me happy, right? So
that's what it's about, right, man? That's what it's about.
Honestly, just be happy. Who gives a fuck if people think you're nerdy, if they don't think it's cool? Just be happy for yourself, right? Obviously, don't hurt people. Don't hurt people at the same time, right? Like if you feel happy hurting people, then that's kind of weird. But
yeah,
even though I'm in a physical sport that hurts people, I don't hurt people. So
like with what you said about like you wear that shirt now because you just don't care, right?
yeah.
One thing about having kids is they sort of teach you that perspective of like they don't know any better. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I remember one time a few months back now, Maya, my 2-year-old daughter, and I were like going out to go grocery shopping or something like that. And that morning, as you know, trying to get her dressed was like the most difficult task in the world. So that morning, for whatever reason, she was wearing her Buzz Lightyear pajamas, and she had the Buzz Lightyear bottoms on, and then she put on a cooking apron and a cooking hat and a cooking.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that's the only way we were leaving the house that day. Like, excuse me. That's the only way we were going to leave the house. And I just thought to myself, like, why do you care so much about what she wants to wear and what you're going to look like out in public? Like, she doesn't care. And that's what's going to make her happy today. And don't you want your kid to be happy? And if it's going to get the job done of what you need to do, let's do it. And like, it just gives you that whole perspective. Like, we worry about so many different things and maybe about how people are going to judge what you do. And when you can just own your shit and not care.
Yeah.
Freedom, like I talked about, it just gives you that much more freedom in your head.
Oh yeah, for sure. At the same time, guys, keep it legal. Don't go walking around naked just because it makes you happy. Or do it. I don't care.
Yeah. You might get in trouble.
Yeah, you might get in trouble. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, perspective check. Just
perspective check.
At the end of the day, just be happy. Just be happy and look at things in a positive manner, right? One more situation, Dan. I look at Cirque du Soleil, very different since I started doing body weight or calisthenics a few years back now. I think it's amazing. Back then, I probably would have thought it's kind of weird or different, but after doing my first pull-up, I completely respect, and I'm amazed what the kind of body control a person can have, right? And this is just a perspective check because I got humbled through body weight stuff, right? So now I just look at everything like I don't do that, so I have to respect it, at least, right? What do you think of that?
I'm right there with you. You know, a lot of people, when they don't understand something, they just dismiss it, or they get negative about it because they don't understand it. And like, you might not understand, like, let's look at like the Cirque du Soleil. Like, a lot of people don't actually understand what it takes for those people to do the tricks that they're doing. You know what I mean? But someone like you with your background, me, I've tried doing body weight stuff like that, and I know how much training it takes to be able to do some of it. Yeah, like, the perspective, once you do something and then you know what it takes to do it, having that perspective really allows you to respect things a lot more, you know, and just know how much work and how hard it is that to do what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's cool. The more that I get humbled, the more that my perspective gets more positive on those things where I respect different arts more and more, the happier I am.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
anything else happened to you this week?
No, I mean, it was just basically a typical busy full week. Just getting in, getting my running in, getting my training in, work, side hustle work, family time, making it all happen, right?
It's been beautiful days.
And then trying to get outside as much as I can to enjoy the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Enjoy it when you can, right? Because
yeah, I mean, we're already halfway through July, right? Like, we only have 2 more months of this, and then it's going to be cold again. So try to enjoy the summer as much as possible because it's only here for a very short time.
And don't you dare complain about how hot it is. My God.
You know, one thing I've noticed actually is over the winter, I did a lot of sauna training, as you know. Like, I was in it every night in the winter. And from that heat exposure training, I've noticed that I'm handling these hot days a lot better this summer. Like, days where people around me will be like, oh man, it's so hot. I actually don't find it like that bad because of the sauna training, I think. And I've also gone for some runs in this like heat in the middle of the day, and I've been able to handle it a lot more. So I thought that's pretty cool, actually, like how that's increased my athletic ability in the heat and just increased my tolerance to heat overall. It's really cool to see how that consistent sauna training in the winter has been able to help me improve and excel in the summer.
Now, we could use that in a billion different ways, but we don't have all night. But one thing that I want to say about that is I think it's amazing our ability to adapt, our body and mind adapt to a situation, right? Whether we're cold, our body changes. If we're lifting weights, our body changes. If we're moving, our body changes. If we don't move, our body changes. It will always adapt to a situation to survive and to be better, right? Now, whether you assist it one way or another, it's going to hopefully take you serious when you want to be serious about being better, right? How I always explain to people is if you're trying to lose weight or change your health, are you a person that jumps back and forth between being good and being bad at doing the things that you have to do? Because that's not going to make your body take you serious, right? So if you want your body to be serious, you send all the positive energy towards the thing that you want to get to. You do all the things that you got to do to be better, right? And that's putting everything on your body's court to be like, you know what, here's everything. Now take me serious to help me get better, and it will every single time. Every single time will adapt and make you better. Now you can use that for everything: mind, body, situations, right? I think that's the amazing part that a lot of people don't understand, that if you want to get stronger, your body will help you. So take advantage of that.
And it transcends into all aspects of your life, not just physical strength. It teaches you how to push through situations, and that can teach you how to push through any difficult situation in your life, not just lifting weights.
Yeah. Why do you think there's a big thing right now, a lot of studies on people who go through adversity, right? Their ability to come from a shitty situation into a positive one, because they understand what it's like to have nothing or have to deal with a lot of issues. And then when they make it, they appreciate where they are for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Nothing against anybody that gets hand-given stuff, right? But they have to learn differently, right? There's different ways to learn, obviously, right? But there's definitely a trend in people who reach a certain point, reach the goals when they come from adversity, right? Then you could adapt that to another situation. They don't let little things bother them because they know they're a lot better than they were.
Exactly.
Right. So we could talk about adapting all day, like sauna, cold water, stuff like that. Hopefully we can bring on my buddy next time for one of our podcasts to talk about those kind of things with different situations where your body adapts. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think that'd be good.
What do you think, Dan?
I think that's it for tonight, guys. So just remember, perspective. Having a new perspective on anything changes everything.
Mm-hmm. And also, we're on YouTube now, guys. We posted our video version, so we're not only on audio now. We just started that, so our videos will be up on YouTube, and follow our Facebook, Ivy League Mindset. And yeah, keep listening to us on our podcast too. And we appreciate you guys listening, as always.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you've done for us. And yeah, if you want to watch the full-length video, it's up on Facebook and it's up on YouTube. Whatever you like to watch videos on better, I guess. Take a look and check it out. Until next time, cheers, guys.
Have a good night.